This week we cover the US Air Force funding the development of a return cargo vehicle from Outpost. In our second segment we cover an announcement by ABL. Our third segment covers Relativity Space and their 3D printing problems. And finally, Lumen Orbit are planning to put data centers into orbit. Okay, let's get started. Outpost is awarded $33.2 million by the US Air Force. Outpost Technology Corporation has secured a $33.2 million contract from the Air Force Ventures program to develop and test components of the Joint Precision Orbital Cargo, or JPOC for short, space vehicle, aimed at enhancing hypersonic testing and re-entry capabilities. This funding will support the development of a scalable heat shield, payload bus, and paragliding system for Outpost Ferry-All and the larger Carry-All vehicles, which can return up to 10 tons of cargo from space. The project, announced at Fed Supernova 2024, is set to start later this year, with the first launch planned for late 2026. CEO Jason Dunn emphasized the technology's role in military logistics by safely delivering supplies through space, reducing risk to personnel. Additionally, Outpost has received another contract for developing orbital warehousing capabilities, further advancing their technology for global logistics support. Recently, Outpost announced additional contracts, including $1.25 million for Space Garage contract with the Air Force. This stands for Global Asset Resupply and Gear Enhancement. This contract focuses on developing the capability to use Ferry-All and Carry-All for warehousing cargo in orbit, enabling just-in-time delivery anywhere on Earth. The Space Garage program will enhance Outpost's re-entry technology, supporting the government's warfighter by maintaining logistics and supplies in hard-to-reach locations worldwide. Okay, our next story covers a space startup that has had a few mishaps on its way to getting its first vehicle into orbit. ABL reduces its workforce. ABL Space Systems recently announced layoffs following the destruction of its second RS-1 rocket in a pad fire. CEO Harry O'Hanley, in an email shared on LinkedIn, explained that the decision was influenced by rapid company growth and consecutive rocket failures. He did not specify how many employees were affected. O'Hanley reflected on ABL's journey, noting that a successful $370 million funding series in 2021, when the space industry was booming and the company expanded rapidly. This included setting up a high-rate rocket production line and continuously refining their rocket design, which proved challenging. However, the market cooled in 2022, leaving ABL overextended. The company faced significant setbacks with its RS-1 rocket. The first flight in January 2023 ended in an explosion shortly after launch, and the second rocket was lost in July during a static fire test due to a sensor malfunction that led to an abort. This abort caused fuel leaks, which started a fire that then destroyed the vehicle and damaged the pad. In response to these events and a tighter funding climate, ABL is restructuring to operate leaner, focusing on enhancing the RS-1 and its ground systems with a smaller team. Despite the setbacks, the next rocket is already in production, and the company continues to aim for its first successful orbital launch. Next, let's talk about a well-known space startup that is having issues with 3D printing parts for its new vehicle. Relativity Space printing problems. Relativity Space, known in the space industry for its heavy use of 3D printing, is reconsidering how much of its medium-sized launch vehicle should be 3D printed. As much as 85% of the smaller Terran 1 vehicle was 3D printed, but scaling up 3D printing for the larger Terran R is proving difficult. This shift comes at a time when Relativity Space has a substantial backlog, reportedly amounting to $2.6 billion in orders, highlighting the urgency to meet market demands. The transition in leadership from CEO Tim Ellis to Josh Brost marks a pivot towards enhancing customer relations and operational efficiency over pure technical innovation. The development timeline for the Terran R rocket, Relativity Space's medium-sized vehicle, has been extended, with the first launch not likely before 2026. With growing competition from a number of other space startups, the company needs to execute quickly, so has decided to buy various components and parts rather than 3D printing them. This pragmatic approach was hinted at when they shared an image on X of what appears to be a fairing from Beyond Gravity, known for its work on the Ariane 6. Though this partnership hasn't been officially confirmed by Relativity Space. It could be that for Terran R, only the rocket engines and other small components will be 3D printed, with the large tanks and fairing being produced in the more traditional method and with more use of third-party contractors. Okay, for our final segment, let's talk about a new space startup that has just emerged. Lumen Orbit plans to construct orbiting data centers in space. Lumen Orbit, a newly launched space startup, is setting its sights on the deployment of data centers in space, with a particular emphasis on AI training clusters. Their rationale is that data centers in space benefit from free solar energy from the sun. By using passive cooling, no maintenance problems arise, and operators don't need to worry about licensing and environmental assessments as they would on Earth. Moreover, the vast expanse of space allows for the construction of data centers on a scale that's impractical on Earth, which is especially beneficial for AI operations, where large scale can translate into a significant competitive edge. The team at Lumen Orbit comprises individuals with deep experience in the space industry, bringing a wealth of knowledge to the project. Some of the employees have worked at national space agencies, or worked on satellite design, or worked at SpaceX on the Starlink network. Let's look at the technology. The demand for electricity in AI training centers is staggering, with significant investments flowing into AI startups and major tech companies like Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, and X, who are spending heavily on these facilities. These centers not only consume vast amounts of power for their AI chips, but also require extensive cooling systems to prevent overheating, which adds to their energy consumption. Space-based data centers offer a compelling solution by leveraging the vacuum of space for cooling and tapping into an unlimited supply of solar energy. This approach could provide a substantial advantage over traditional terrestrial data centers, which face high operational costs and environmental impacts. The environmental advantages of space data centers are significant. Traditional centers contribute to substantial CO2 emissions through their cooling needs and power consumption, often sourced from fossil fuels. In contrast, space centers would operate entirely on solar power, eliminating greenhouse gas emissions. However, the initial investment for space data centers would be considerable, involving multiple launches and the construction of large radiator fins for cooling. Despite this, the long-term benefits are promising. No electricity bills, minimal maintenance, and the absence of real estate, environmental assessments, licensing, or government regulations, which simplifies operations and reduces bureaucratic overhead. A key challenge for these space facilities is a risk of damage from space debris. The large cooling radiators necessary for these data centers make them susceptible to micrometeorite impacts. Any damage to the cooling fans could cause the data center to go offline or otherwise risk a thermal meltdown. By moving data centers into orbit, Lumen Orbit aims to solve terrestrial issues like energy consumption, cooling, and space constraints, potentially leading to more efficient and scalable AI training environments. Okay, that's it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe to keep informed on all the space startup news. We focus on the smaller space companies that are often overlooked by other channels. See you soon.